Hi guys, welcome to our class discussion for the subject Campus Journalism. For today's video, we will talk about revising, editing, proofreading, copyreading, and lastly, publishing. Here are the objectives. Discuss the revising up to the publishing process in campus print, identify the duties and characteristics of the copyreader and editor. I know guys how familiar you are that one of the most challenging and difficult task of being or part of the campus paper is that once you become the copy reader or editor, right? Since there are lots of duties and things that you have to do to make sure that you're doing your job right. And use the copy reading and proofreading symbols in editing campus articles. You know what, guys? That should be part of our discussion for the subject technical writing during the last semester, and I'm so thankful that I'm still given the chance to discuss this to you. So I hope that you will really finish this video and learn from it. And lastly, you will edit articles using a word processing application to display your ICT skills. I know that you have that ICT skills in you, and this would be your practice. After this topic, guys, will have short quiz that you have to pass it within today also. Okay, now let's start with this in mind and let's imagine a world full of errors. How would it be like? Do you think it would be full of happiness, or do you think it could cause chaos, or what are the negative things that might happen, right? And this is another question, guys. How conscious are you with your errors? This is not just for being a copy reader or a future copy reader, but it's actually for you also as a future English teachers, since of course you really need to check it also. Even if you have a copy reader or editor with your campus paper, in the end, you are still the advisor or you're still the one handling the campus paper, so you need to still check it. And this is one of the skills that an English teacher should have. Okay, now let's have this definition from the dictionary about edit and proofread. What's the difference between the two? When we say edit, guys, it's to prepare something to be published and to make changes or correct mistakes. That's how editing works. And the proofread naman, it's to read and correct mistakes in a written or printed piece of writing. And we have the editing, checks for the overall presentation of the text, is the message conveyed clearly or etc. And proofread, final check naman siya, ensures that the final document is free from any technical errors. So that's the difference between editing and proofreading. When we say, in short, guys, if it's editing, it's more on checking the overall. But if it's proofreading, you have final check, you have this document checking the technical errors. So why are these two important, and why do we need to study about this, right? Even if I'm not more into copyreading, I wanted to focus on sports writing or news writing, of course you still have to know about this too. So here are the things or examples that might you might see this already in Facebook or even in YouTube, guys, or other social media accounts. We have here, more shops awaits you. Now, do you think that's correct? What will happen if that would be the world you're living, full of errors, right? And more volunteers are needed to help rape victims, diba? Even this one, it's already published. And then without knowing, in the end, kung kailan naman na-publish na, tsaka nakita nyo ng copy reader nyo, ay mali pala yun. Kasi may nagreklamo or whatsoever. Because sometimes, that's actually one of the duties, guys, if you're a copy reader. It's not most of the time that you will really become a perfect copy reader na kailangan pag-publish walang mali. Sometimes, or you could not really avoid that thing to happen na merong mali talaga kahit ilang beses na copy reader or na-copy read or na-proofread, but still, meron pa ring mali. Now, let's learn about it. What should be the duties or the techniques that you have to do to make these things avoided. And another thing, diba? Benta ko na lang tong autistic guitar ko. Mura na lang. PM lang sa may gusto. I know that this is something that most of us laugh about, diba? Yung nagiging memes na siya or naging pinagtatawanan na lang. Or maybe, or we just laughing about it and then di naman din natin alam, diba? So do you think that would really make our world better if there would be lots of errors, right? Or what would you think will happen? So here are just examples, guys. And I have another one. Ito. I want my first daughter to be a girl. Di ba, minsan, kaya takot din ako mag-post din talaga kasi I know I'm not that perfect din talaga. There are times na, lalo na pag nagmamadali, hindi mo na proofread or na i-edit yung gusto mong i-post, diba? Tapos biglang na-screenshot, tapos ayun, naging meme na, pinagtatawanan na yung ng mga tao, diba? So we have to be careful of it. And so yeah, those are just examples, guys, kung anong mangyayari ba talaga if the world would be full of errors in terms of the spelling or even using the right word. Now, the importance, guys, is your intended audience might misinterpret you. Sometimes, this sinasabi ko that we have to be careful since we don't really know what does it mean by the word that we're using, kung ano interpretation ng mga audiences mo, diba? Tas mali pa yung mga words na ginamit, diba? And you may think that you're getting your point across loud and clear, but your audience thinks otherwise. Even something as small as a comma can make a difference, right? Sobrang daming halimbawa nun, guys, na yung nagkamali ka lang sa paglagay ng comma, it would really make a different meaning to your audiences or sa magbabasa ng sinulat mo. And another thing is how you write dictates your reader's confidence in you. Every missing or wrong use of punctuation, the faulty grammar or usage mistake turns off a reader. That's right. If it makes one look careless and not a reputable source of information. Lalo na pag if you are a teacher or you are a journalist talaga, you have to make sure that you are giving them a reputable source by, of course, giving them the correct way of writing. Dapat maganda talaga yung writing mo. Kaya diba, there's a big effect that once we have a campus paper, if ever, magiging campus paper advisor kayo once you graduate, guys, is that you have to be very careful. Kasi yung sinusulat mo or yung pinapublish nyo, it's not just for us sa loob ng campus, but other people outside. They might read what you're writing sa campus paper nyo. And if there's a faulty grammar or usage mistake doon, it would really turn off dun sa mga people na magbabasa. And it will make the school more less reliable in giving information. So, malaki talaga din yung effect. Okay? So, dapat maging careful kayo and you really have to do your job once you become the advisor. And successful articles use a writing process. The process is dealing with revising, editing, and proofreading to create writing that is clear, organized, and effective. And it is a specific article is riddled with spelling, grammar mistakes. The reader could get distracted from the main point of the paper, right? Lalo na yung sa mga grammar Nazi talaga. They are so very, papansin nila konting pagkakamali mo lang. But I hope that even if you're a grammar Nazi, you are also doing it for yourself also. Dapat you are very conscious sa mga errors mo. And copyreading is where any errors in spelling, grammar, punctuation, or style get fixed. When that's done, the copy editor writes a headline that summarizes your story. It is the art of arranging, connecting, and selecting the quality and type of news. It is called copy editing. Kaya yung pag nagiging copy editor ka, reader ka, ayun, dapat sobrang galing mo talaga kasi you are there to correct it, to fix, to make sure that your writer or sino man sa news writing ay mas mapaganda talaga yung writing niya. Kaya ikaw kasi yung final touch dun eh. Kaya, you have to be very careful in it. Kaya most of the time talaga, kinukuha ang copy readers are those who are good enough or yung pinakamagaling talaga. Not just within for sa isang specific lang na for feature or news writing. Dapat kabuuan talaga pag copy reader ka. You should be familiar with all. I remember the time guys na when I was high school and I think third year high school. Tapos, yung teacher namin, yung sa school, kailangan daw para sa contest na may sasali sa, sa feature writing tapos sa copy reading. At first, ang pinili ko talaga is feature writing since I'm really good in it. Doon talaga ako magaling. Pero, the week after, or the week before ng contest, ay sinabi ng teacher sa akin na, uy, sa copy reading ka na lang. Oh my gosh. I was like, ma'am, madali lang po ba yung copy reading? Tapos alam mo yun, wala akong knowledge yung ano ba yung ginagawa ng copy reading na yan. And, ayun, a week before, pinag-aralan ko yung mga symbols. And then, ayun, pagdating ko sa contest, di ko alam kung tama ba yung mga sinagot ko. But that's an experience, guys, na I realized na dapat pala talaga pag joining the contest, pagpipili ka ng bata, if that will be your copy reader, you have to make sure na trained talaga siya. Hindi lang isang best, dalawa, but you have to always train that student, guys, to be the best copy reader. Kasi siya yung pinaka-final touch ng magsusulat eh. She should be knowledgeable enough, not just in the content, but even yung sa grammar, sa usage ng words. Ayun guys, sobrang dami niyang characteristic or duties na dapat na gawin. Okay, and we will learn that later on. And the copy reader is much like the work of a communication arts teacher. That's right, parang nagiging teacher din siya eh. Kasi pag ikaw copy reader, you have to check everything and there is more to copy reading than meets the eye. Copy reading is a heavy task because it requires knowledge of the English language. Kaya most of the time, pag sa campus paper, pinapacheck talaga sa may English teachers or there should be alam mo yun, process talaga niya na hindi lang isang araw but it should take days talaga to make sure na maganda yung magiging effect or yung pinaka-product nyo. The knowledge to correct errors and polish yung outputs to claim its highest value. With proper copy editing, readers will be impressed by your writing skill and can pay off full attention to what you're trying to say clearly. Copy editing is an important step for any piece of writing you're going to hand in. Kaya pag may best copy editor ka na estudyante, you should be thankful for it. And kung wala man, then you have to train that kid to be one of the best copy readers that you could ever have in your campus. And what does it mean by revising? What's the difference between this, guys? Yung revising, editing, and proofreading. When we say revising, it's a continuous re-seeing of your writing that considers large issues like focus, organization, and audience. It is not simply moving or deleting a few sentences or checking for typos. Of course, you are there to revise. Therefore, you are seeing it and you have to make sure that it's organized or connected ba talaga yung sinasabi doon ng writer mo. And what is editing naman? It is a process that writers use to improve naman the style, the transitions, consistency, paragraph unity, and documentation. It is not only changing a few words or deleting a sentence, but also writing with clarity requires a commitment of time and attention. That's true. It really takes time, guys, once you edit something. And attention. If you have that kind of eye na sobrang bilis lang makikita ng mali, I even have that type of teacher. Yun nga, during my years sa masteral talaga. I have this teacher na, alam mo yung di niya talaga sobrang binabasa, pero kita-kita na niya yung mali doon sa sinulat mo. So it means na doon talaga siya, expert na talaga siya, distinguished type of teacher na siya kung saan konting lang kita na mali na agad. Yung fast reader na siya, tapos sobrang bilis lang makakita ng mali. And that's really a good thing. Don't worry, you will be like that next time as long as you keep on practicing that type of skill. And what is proofreading? Proofreading is identifying and correcting surface level errors like typos, misspellings, and formatting errors. Good proofreading is meticulous. It's not just running a spell checker, and don't proofread until you revise and edit it. Okay, remember that one. You have to revise it first, edit, and last na yung proofreading talaga. This is really a meticulous type of job, guys. And there's no point in correcting mistakes that you may delete or change while revising or of editing. So wala naman talagang point if you're just correcting mistakes, 'di ba? Tapos dinilit mo nang naman pala nung nag-revise ka or nag-edit ka. So maganda talaga, you have to revise muna, nag-edit ka na bago yung pinaka last part, proofreading. Kasi nagpo-proofreading ka na, tama na yung mga sinabi mo doon, proofread na, check na yung tama na lahat. Tapos biglang magre-revise ka, 'di ba? For what, 'di ba? Nagsasayang lang din yung time and effort ng copyreader o ng proofreader mo. And what copyreaders do ba talaga? So ito yung mga ginagawa talaga nila. Or meron man sa inyo na ginagawa na, you might add this or learn something from this, or kung meron mang ginagawa ka na hindi mo naman dapat talaga gawin, diba, as a copyreader. Copyreaders are the ones behind a good piece of written work. That's true. Authors might have written it, but copyreaders read manuscripts that authors submitted and evaluate them for quality of content and suggest changes to enhance their audience appeal. O diba, ganun ka ganda ang task or kahirap ang task ng isang copyreader. But, kaya 'di ba pag ano talaga, pag once you publish something, you really need to choose the best copyreader or editor na pwede mong makuha. Kasi sila yung pinaka-final touch. Sila yung pwede pang magpaganda doon sa work na ginawa mo. And I even have this, yung kaklase ko before sa masteral nga, na-realize niya na, yun nga, she's not really good in sa grammar talaga. Nahihirapan siya sa research niya. However, nung pina-check niya, pina-copyread niya, o pina-proofread niya, sobrang ganda na nung kalabasan talaga ng research niya, di ba? Kasi sometimes, we don't really have to focus on editing, yung pahirapan natin sarili natin. Let those people who has the talent or skill na talaga to do the job. Kasi doon sila magaling, di ba? And not just that, not just to make your life easy, but to make your work more meaningful and to make it more appealing to your audience or sa readers mo. And here are the jobs of copyreader. First is to correct the grammatical errors or error in style and typographical errors. He keeps out damaging statements or derogatory statement. Those are libelous and harmful to anyone's reputation. Imagine that one, guys. Kung copyreader ka talaga, you have to be very conscious din talaga. Attention, needs your attention and time na dapat maalam ka din. O ito, parang mali pala to. Parang ganun, di ba? Kaya, ganun kabigat yung task ng isang copyreader. Shorten sentences and tighten paragraphs. That's true. Lalo na pag magulo yung pagka-explain ng writer, di ba? So, that copyreader could shorten the sentence and see the paper style requirements are strictly followed. Yun. And check the names, addresses, titles, designations, identifications, figures, etc. Di ba parang kawawa naman yung copyreader pag may mali na publish na yung work tapos isisi lahat sa copyreader? Of course not. Kaya dapat tayo din as a writer or assign ka sa feature writing or sa news writing, you should still be knowledgeable enough, okay? But then, yung copyreader kasi, wag natin silang pahirapan masyado, okay? And rewrite the story completely if it's poorly written. Diba? Pag hindi masyadong kagandahan yung sinabi or sinulat doon, i-rewrite niya yung story. Kaya dito mahirap pag hindi pa masyadong magaling yung pinili mo for the campus paper. Dapat nyo pa talaga silang i-train tapos i-workshop to make sure na tama yung ginagawa nila. Kasi pag hindi, binigyan mo na sila ng task. Ang ending dyan, guys, ikaw yung advisor, ito, yung pinakadulo yung rewrite the story completely if it's poorly written. Lalo na pag yung copyreader mo ay hindi pa ganun talaga ka totally trained. And then rewrite the lead or the first few paragraphs whenever necessary, but must never tamper with the facts unless he is sure if his corrections that's true. As a copyreader, you're not just there to correct, but of course, you should not tamper with the facts. Unless tama talaga yung correction mo, baka nagko-correct ka tapos wala ka naman sa tamang wala ka naman sa tamang lugar, diba? And delete all opinion, speculation, and statement which are without attribution or sources, lalo na pag sa news writing yung proofread. Watch out for slanting or any attempt to present the story in a subtly biased way. Watch out for libelous statements. Recheck figures and totals then. Later on, madidiscuss natin siya kung paano ba natin silang i-check kung ano ba yung tamang to state the figures and totals, and cross out adjectives which tend to make a story sound overwritten. Diba? Baka sobra naman yung adjectives mo, masyado mo nang pinaganda. Tapos ang ending, diba? Hindi na siya nagiging news writing. Hindi na siya nagbibigay ng facts. It's just more in opinions. And then cut a story to size or to the required length if it need be. Check attributions and see to it that they are properly identified. Challenge the facts, claims, or reports when they sound anomalous, illogical, and incredible. Lalo na pag parang it sounds mali. Di ba minsan ganun tayo pag nagbabasa? Sometimes we cannot say that it's really wrong, but it's for us na parang mali. Mali sa pandinig ko or something na nakaka-offend siya. So we have to be very careful at that. Dapat alamin mo talaga yung facts. Then check the taglines and paging sequences and write headlines. Yun. Nag-write din daw ng headlines ang isang copyreader. So you have to be knowledgeable about it once you choose this type of job. And here are the qualities, guys, of a good copyreader. If ever you're a copyreader right now, then that would be great. You have this visualization potential. Copyreader requires the ability to quickly scan a piece of work and visualize the pattern it conveys through the words, designs, and layout. They should also be imaginative enough to visualize the effect of rearrangement of items in a given copy. That's true. And kasi 'di ba pag alam mo ay parang hindi may mali dito. Dapat ito yung mauna. So dapat na-visualize na talaga niya. And this is the best technique din talaga once you write something or mag-i-edit. Kasi pag iniisa-isa mo yung per sentence, 'di ba? For what, 'di ba? Paano mo naman makikita kung ano ba talagang mauuna dyan? Or how can you correct or organize it if you don't even have this type of visualization potential? And copyreaders should be capable of identifying the patterns and recognize if these add interest or detract value from the copy. Kasi, kaya wag nating yan guys. Kasi minsan, alam nyo, sa totoo lang, yung copyreader tsaka yung pinaka-writer talaga na nagsulat, ay nagkakabanggaan yan minsan. And even sa mga pagsusulat ng novels or books, guys, may gustong ipatanggal si copyreader, proofreader. Ayoko niyan. Tanggalin mo yan. Tapos yung writer parang sasakman, ay bakit ganun? Gustong-gusto ko yung part na yun eh. Bakit kailangan tanggalin? But that's their job. Kasi minsan, as a writer, baka nag-focus ko lang porque maganda yung words na sinabi mo or ginamit mo. However, for the copyreader, if that sounds mali or hindi naman siya nakakatulong to make it more interesting, but imbes naka-distract siya, so just let them be. Hayaan mo na sila kasi sila yung nakakaalam eh. Kaya, kung ayaw mo ng ganon, tapos alam mo, para tama naman, di ba? Tapos papatanggal sa akin. Minsan, ganon sila, nagkakagulo. Kaya, you choose the best copyreader talaga. Para alam mo na yung sinusunod mo ay tama talaga or kasunod-sunod yung sinasabi niya. Okay? Kasi wala naman ding perfect na copyreader talaga. Remember that. Next is attention to detail. Copyreaders read and check the copy for quality of content, readability, and audience appeal, and errors in syntax and spelling. They also check details of the information in the copy against standard references. This aspect of the job calls for the ability to work in a methodological and meticulous manner, paying attention to minor details. Imagine that one, guys, hindi lang talaga sa maliit ay sa malalaking pagkakamali, but even for minor details, ganun ka, galing ang mga copyreader. And copyreaders also need to keep their publication editorial policy and other requirements in mind when evaluating materials that authors submit and suggest the changes where necessary. Kailangan mo talaga mag-suggest kung kailangan. Kasi minsan, di ba, pag ang writer, they're just focusing dun sa nag-revise na sila, nag-edit na sila, akala nila tama na, tapos pag dating sa copyreader, nagkakaroon ng changes, di ba? Dapat mong i-edit talaga or aayusin. And broad perspective to recognize the worth of a piece of work. Copyreaders need to consider things from their audience's point of view. They should know their audience well and be aware of its expectations and demands. They require the ability to think creatively and come up with several variants of an idea that hold distinctive appeal for the audience. Copyreaders also need a broadness of vision to recognize items of value that will sustain audience interest over a longer duration. And let's have this one. And about broad perspective, guys, dapat talaga broad, dapat alam ka talaga sa piece of work na dapat i-change mo. Hindi ka lang magbibigay ng basta-bastang comment or suggestion, tapos wala ka naman palang alam dun sa kinakorrect mo. Okay? Then good at communication. Of course, the job of a copyreader involves interaction with authors as well as publishing staff. Copyreaders need to communicate clearly with authors to ensure the copy is in keeping with the publication style and policies. They also need to collaborate with many other staffs involved in the publishing process, such as artists, the designers, printing staff, and production managers to complete projects on time. Besides being able to communicate their viewpoint, copyreaders need to be good at active listening to understand the important points that others convey. Kaya hindi ka lang basta porket ako copyreader, ako dapat masusunod. Hindi ganon. You should have the good communication to ask about the writer or kung bakit ganito. Dapat nagkakaroon ng magandang interaction. Kasi you are there to help eh. Hindi ka naman you are there to distract them or to make things worse, diba? You are there to communicate and to collaborate with them during the publishing process. At para sabihin talaga, ikaw nga, pag copyreader ka, dami mong gustong mangyari doon sa sinusulat ng writer, tapos magmamatigas ka rin or ayaw mong makinig. So, mas maganda yung kung gusto mong pakinggan ka, you have to listen din doon sa part ng mga writers na or gumawa ng mga work na ini-edit mo or pinu-proofread mo. Okay? Then, what to copyread? Ano ba talagang kinaka-copyread ng isang copyreader? Errors in fact, errors in grammar, in structure, guys, in style, libelous, and derogatory statements. Kung alam mo masyadong nakakasakit or baka kakasuhan tayo dyan, papalabas natin yan, di ba? Seditious and rebellious matter, ayun. So baka masyadong rebellious na yung sinasabi doon, dapat alam mo yan, chinecheck mo yan, kasi baka mag-question naman kayo, imbes na freedom of, kakaroon kayo ng freedom of speech or freedom what you wanted to express, baka, nakakatapak na tayo or nakakasama na din dun sa freedom ng ibang tao or rights nila. Expressions contrary to law and good taste. Yan. Alam mo, against the law, ba't mo pa ipapabalita, di ba? Parang sa Jessica Soho lang yan eh. Sometimes, di ba, pinapaki-MJS nila, tapos mali pala or against pala dun sa batas ng bansa. So, anong gagawin? Huhulihin yung na report or whatsoever, di ba? Kaya we have to be very careful. Pero except lang kung may exceptions naman siguro kung bakit hindi hinuli or binalita lang kasi that might be few years ago pa nangyari. So, pwede yun. Pero pag sobrang aga pa, tapos bawa, ang nagbibigay ka ng information, tapos on the process pa pala yung hearing, diba? Tapos nagbigay ka na agad ng opinion mo. So, that's a no-no. And opinions and editorializing statements, kung minsan sumusobra na tayo sa pagbibigyan ng opinion, or lalo na dun sa mga feature writing or sa news writing, and verbal deadwood, redundancy. We will talk about this verbal deadwood later on. Technical terms, slang, jargon. Yan. sobrang daming jargons ngayon na words. The verbal deadwood, redundancy in style. When we say verbal deadwood, guys, these are long sentences and high-floating words. We have here, for the reason that, pwede ka namang gumamit ng because, di ba? Tendered his resignation. Pwede namang resigned na lang. Told his listeners. Pwede masabihin said na lang, 'di ba? Minsan pinapahirapan lang natin or minsan kaya yung iba, I even watch some of the videos sa YouTube na isa daw sa technique or I think sa Facebook ko nabasa, isa daw sa technique para mahaba yung essay is to use this word for the reason that and tendered his resignation, told his listeners para lang mapahaba, which is not. Once you become a copy reader, guys, or an English teacher sa technical writing, you have to make sure that you have to use the shortest na term, tapos mas easier at mas appealing dun sa reader mo. Kasi panggulo lang to eh, pag masyadong mahaba, di ba? Masyadong hindi na talaga siya useful. Bis na nakakatulong, nakakasama pa dun sa sinusulat mo. Kasi mas maganda yung short, pero may substance, di ba? Yung laman na laman talaga, yung sinasabi mo dun sa content mo, hindi lang sa, parang humaba lang yung sasabihin mo. And we have here the, ano naman guys, redundancy. Ito din, laging nagagamit to. Minsan, nagagamit ko rin to without even knowing. Kaya dapat na talaga magiging conscious tayo sa mga errors natin. Redundancy in linguistic, it is the construction of a phrase to present some idea using more information, often via multiple means that is necessary for one to be able to understand the idea. Examples of redundancy, yung free gift, final conclusion, final na nga, conclusion pa, the new beginning, new na nga, tapos may beginning pa, diba? Past history. So, ito yung mga redundancy. You have to avoid it. We have exact same, end result, final outcome. Ito yung added bonus, basic fundamentals, basic na nga, fundamentals pa. Collaborate together. Collaborate na nga, nagto-together pa, diba? Difficult, dilemma pa. False pretense, so usual, free gift, first begun, repeat again. So, yun yung mga commonly na nakikita natin, di ba? So, we have to avoid this one. Guys, by the way, don't be afraid in writing or being part of a campus paper. Always remember that a rough draft is never a final copy. So, if you have that confusions, guys, or you're not having that confidence yet, maging confident na kayo para magsulat and to send your, yung draft or ginawa mo. Kasi you have this copy reader. You have to be thankful for them. Kasi andyan sila to survive, to guide you. And ibig sabihin na yung sinulat mo ay perfect yan. For others, it will always be a rough draft. It's never a final copy. Just keep on editing it and checking it until na mamamaster mo yung way of writing mo. Okay? There's no, guys, walang mali sa pagta-try, di ba? Just give it and to the copy reader. Kasi minsan yung copy reader naman, kung alam nilang i-revise, pwede naman i-revise or i-correct. And in that way, kaya pag ikaw yung copy reader, you should know how to listen to the writers kasi you have to understand them and you have to train them, di ba? Tuturuan mo din sila kung anong tama. Para next time that they will send you a draft or yung paper nila, alam mo na yung gagawin mo talaga, di ba? Or alam na nilang gagawin nila. And it would be easier for you to check. And here are the basics of newspaper style, guys, for you to check once you be a copy reader. The numbers 1 to 9 are written in words, while the numbers 10 and above are written in figures. For example, 9 students, tapos pag lagpas na siya sa 9, you have to write the figure na 13 children. And then there's an exceptions, guys, for these numbers. Dates, address, always in figures, ha? Hindi natin pwedeng isulat. Porket sinabi dyan na pag 1 to 9, written in words. Ito yung mga exceptions. Sana pag address, dates, proper nouns may be written in figures or words. Beginning of sentence then always in words. Okay? Pag halimbawa, ang sinasabi mo dun is 21st century, di ba? Hindi naman 21 na figure. But you have to write it in letter. Yun yung mga exceptions. Events, guys, first 9 is allowed naman. Okay? It doesn't mean naman na correct, but you could allowed yan siya sa pag nagka-copy read ka. And then for the spelling, look for misspelled words. Here in the Philippines, American English is used, not British English, okay? So color, not color, okay? So minsan, for students na gusto nila British English, lahat ng words nila, okay lang yun if it's a color or lahat yon. Pero pag sa newspaper or sa copy reading guys, sa campus journalism, we have to use daw talaga under American English para pantay-pantay lahat or pare-pareho. If a word has more than one accepted spelling, the shortest one is preferred. For example, we have judgment instead of judgment na maglalagay pa ng E. Okay? You have to be cautious about this one. The first letter of the sentence is always capitalized. Of course, proper nouns are capitalized too, common nouns are not. Small letters are usually used for title or position. Capitalized title, yan. Pinag-aralan nyo na din sa abbreviation. Then, spell out department, government, and other abbreviations. Kasi dapat mas clear siya. But abbreviations, junior and senior are allowed in names naman. A title or position of a person may be abbreviated if it appears before the name, but not simply used in the sentence. Okay? Pag nasa unahan naman, Engineer Emmanuel Delgado, pwede yung gamitin. And remember, 12 Dimagiba Street or Dimagiba Street. Dito, pag sa, you will use the term na street, pag may 12 dun sa, may specific. Pero pag Dimagiba Street, yun lang. Dapat i-complete mo yung word na street na yan. And the acronyms naman, usually written in capital letters. We have this WD. Check if the letters of the acronym are in the correct order. Baka naman bali-baliktad na. And when an acronym appears for the first time in a news story, it is written after its meaning and it is enclosed in parentheses. Lalo na pag una pa lang, diba? Di ba pag sa unahan talaga sinabi or kakasabi lang, it should be dapat sinasabi or complete. Then, parenthesis yung pinaka-meaning niya. I'm sorry, yung acronym pala. And sa paragraph naman, the first sentence of the paragraph is indented, always. In news stories, the rule is one paragraph, one sentence only. Kaya dapat familiar ka. Kaya ito yung sabi na pag-copy reader, alam mo dapat yung rules sa news writing, baka naman, correct ka lang dyan. Tapos, yun naman pala ang dapat sinusunod na style dun sa specific na writing na yan, okay? And the lead, there should be no names of unknown persons in the lead. Check for buried leads, and the standard lead answers the 5 WS and 1 H question, or WH questions. And the paragraph, the grammar din guys, the tenses of verb, subject, verb, agreement. Kasi minsan hindi natin napapansin, nagkakamali na tayo dyan. The articles, the punctuation, the period, it is used at the end of the declarative and imperative sentences. It is used in abbreviations such as PM, AM, junior, senior, so we could use it. Even sa comma guys, use commas to separate the month and day from the year, to separate the street or barangay. Yun, mga normal naman to na na sa checking sa grammar. Colon and semicolon, used when presenting a series of information. Ayan, example, editor-in-chief, officer in charge, in most compound nouns. Pwede mo siyang gamitin dito sa hyphen. And fractions then, 2/3, 3/4, in numerals, 22, 29, diba? So those are basic naman yun talaga. And dash naman used between two figures to indicate inclusion, August 15 to 13. Avoid natin isulat yung two na words na yan if it's two figures, okay? And question marks. Quotation marks are used in direct quotation. Do not, but if it's indirect quotation, do not need them. So I forgot it, he said. Diba? He said he forgot it. Ito yung the first one na example dito, I forgot it. He said, that's direct quotation. Pero ito, indirect na to. Kasi kwento mo na yung sinabi niya. Periods and commas are written first before closing intonation marks. That's right, guys. Dapat before dun sa intonation, nakalagay yung comma. Kasi minsan nagkakamali eh. After na nung quotation dito, SM, quotation, close, ano, yung close na quotation, tapos comma. Okay. And quotation marks are used to set off an alias or nickname. Yan. Voicing kit. Diba? Ramon Bong Revilla. Kasi minsan, pag hindi ilalagay ng quotation mark dyan, sabihin na part ng pangalan niya yung Bong, diba? Which is alias or nickname lang pala. So you have to learn about it. And apostrophe naman are used in the possessive form of the noun. The teacher's table, the teacher's meeting, even sa I'm, apostrophes are used in contractions then. Yan, I know those are fundamentals naman. Basic na yan. Alam kong alam niyo na din yan. Will just serve as a review, okay? Na dapat yung check mo once you become a copy reader. And what do we do? Pag nag-copy reader, skim and check for format errors, catch overlooked typographical and content errors, review for inconsistencies, take a final review of the document before submitting or publishing. Now, let's try this editing, guys. And may sagot na din naman. So, despite the error and edit, I have always wanted to work for an organization. So, I have to change it. I have always wanted to work for an organization. Minsan, no need for you to memorize those rules. By just listening and reading it, di ba? Kung alam mo parang may mali, you will learn it. Kaya, I hope that you keep on reading. Develop more your yung grammar skills niyo or yung writing skills. And if one of the students which came early is my cousin. Of course, one of the students who came early is my cousin. Another, maybe she didn't follow the advisor, the physician. Diba? Nagkakaroon ng maybe she didn't follow the advice of the physician. Kasi advisor, how come, diba? So, yeah. These are the examples na pag nagko-correct. I think I can't done the task. I think I can't do the task. So, dami niyang kulang. And her report is fine organized. Her report is fine and organized with D. And swimming, enter a bicycle, and run, develop strength. Yan, strength. Laging nakikita ko yan. Diyan mismo nagkakamali talaga. Nagkababaliktad yung mga letters. Swimming, riding a bicycle, and running, develop strength. These tasks are finished yesterday. These tasks are finished. Okay, finished na yun. With ED na yan. And effective lesson number 2017, all graduating students will be assigned different group. So, nung mali dyan, all graduating students will be assigned to different groups. Kasi, di lang naman siya, pag different, di lang naman isa, diba? So, marami. So, dapat groups. And then, maybe we humbly request that I be allowed to conduct a seminar, workshop on the audio-visual room. Nakikita mo na agad. Yung mali talaga, yung request that we be allowed to conduct a seminar. Kasi, di ba, may B siya eh. Once you have this, B plus, siya, should be in past tense or, past participle. To conduct a seminar workshop in the audiovisual room. Tapos, lastly, thank you very much and God bless. Thank you very much and God bless. And that would be so, that's the easier way of saying it. And here are the 10 rules of proofreading, guys. Remember, that's one, never proofread your own copy. That's true. Kaya mas maganda if you print it or kung tinype mo man siya. Tapos, nababasa mo lang. You could change the font naman para makita mo yung mali talaga. Kasi minsan, sa sobrang familiar na natin sa ginagawa natin, hindi siya nagpo-proofread dun sa sariling copy natin. Minsan naman, pag sa papel, yung ibang ginagawa nila is pinapa-photocopy. Tapos, yun, tsaka nila ini-edit. Kasi minsan, hindi talaga totally na-edit or minsan hindi na natin nakikita yung mali natin. And read everything in the copy straight through from the beginning to end. Read copy backwards to catch spelling errors. That's true. Pag sa spelling errors naman, you can do this backward. Simula ka sa, sa pinaka mababa hanggang sa pinakamataas. If it's more on spelling errors naman yan. Pero pag content, hindi mo pwedeng gawin yun na. And read pages out of order. Ayan, pwede yan. Proofread initial the copy to check. Have someone read numbers while you check the hard copy. And take short breaks so you can concentrate more clearly. Minsan guys, hindi nga lang short breaks na ginagawa ng iba eh. Even yung sa, lalo na sa pag other articles, mga feature yung mahaba talaga. They even take days, 3 days bago nila i-check ulit yung ginagawa na to make sure na nakikita nila yung mali. And have someone read numbers, list errors you spot over a month and alter your routine. But hindi ka palaging sa bawa sa doon mo sinulat sa laptop, tapos doon mo din i-check for proofread. Mas maganda yung ngayon na ipiprint, tapos yung hard copy naman, yung i-check, i-correct na. Alter your routine and make your marks visible and understandable. So, ito yung mga marks, guys, or copy reading symbols na pwede natin gamitin. For the students, we have the symbols, instruction, then examples. Ito, guys, pabilog, it means spell out in word. The city of government, minsan shortcut ng mga writer. So, spell out in words. Government, yan, transpose. Yan, spell out. Transpose naman, pag ganon, university, ibig sabihin, ilipat yung ihid dun sa other part, University of the Philippines, diba? But ito, dito. Yan. Insert letter. Yan, ito yung pinaka-normal na ginagamit, diba? And then, insert word. Delete letter. Yan. Delete mo siya. And delete word, pwede din siya. Pwedeng letter, pwedeng word. Change letter with. Ibig sabihin, minsan, i-delete mo, tapos meron sa taas, to change it. Change word, 3 old. Remove, papalitan, ganun lang siya. Minsan, pwede siyang ipagsama. Insert period, para mas kita. Kasi minsan, diba, pag period na nilalagay mo, hindi napapansin ng pinaka-writer na may mali siya doon. Kaya, bibilugan mo siya. Tapos, andun yung period sa gitna. And then, insert comma. Insert this one. Insert apostrophe. Puro siya arrow. Insert quotation. Insert hyphen naman. Then, insert space. Yan. Ito yung laging most na nakikita mo talaga. Pag nag-i-edit, insert ng space. Tapos, connect but leave the space from the city. Close up. Pag dikitin, the restore, asset. Kasi minsan, magkakamali tayo na, ay, hindi pala, akala ko i-delete na yan. Tapos, pwede mo i-restore. Instead, babalik mo yung, binura dyan. More continuous on next page. Yan, more, tapos pabilog. Or, end of story 30. Tapos, remember this one, guys, ang estudyante ko ay, sumali din siya when I was handling the campus paper sa campus journalism ng mga bata. Dito yun eh. Alam ko dito siya nagkamali. Alam mo yung halos perfect or alam niya yung lahat ng symbol. Dito pa siya nagkamali. Nalimutan yung maglagay ng end of story or 30 tas bilog kakamadali. Which is pinakamadali yung nalimutan. Tas pinaka-last. Ganda talaga yung itong 30 tas nakabilog siya. Yun yung symbol to make sure that it's end of the story. Tapos na. And you may also access, guys, other copy editing symbols with this link. I'll provide it below or nandun din siya sa modules nyo para mas ma-master nyo. I'm just providing yung mga mahalaga din talaga or ginagamit most of the time ng mga copy readers. And here's the example of an edited copy. Diba? Imagine that one. Ang galing, diba? Tapos, minsan din, dapat, alam din talaga ng ating mga writers, yung papagawa natin, yung mga symbol-symbol na yan, baka naman nag-i-edit ka, tapos hindi nila alam yung pinanggagawa mo dyan, diba? Anong ibig sabihin ng symbol na ito? Anong ibig sabihin yan? Diba? So kaya pag copyreader ka, you really have to understand or you have a good communication with the writers for the publishing process. And let's put it into practice. So I have here an example na isulat nyo na lang sa papel or sa paper. I want you to take a picture of it. Meron din naman siya sa module, so you could have that copy. Tapos, kahit huwag na yung I just want you to write this one dito sa part na to. Tapos, i-insert nyo na yung pinapagawa. Okay? Insert a comma, dogs, cats. So, ikaw na bahala. Paano mo ipipresent yun? The transpose, make uppercase, delete the letter. So, meron yan doon ha, sa symbols. Sana makita ko yan. Okay, so it is perfect. Let us all remember, guys, before I end this topic, that it's perfectly okay to write garbage as long as you edit brilliantly. Okay, so just keep on writing and editing your work before you revise it, before you let someone proofread it with a copyreader. Kasi in the end, mas magiging maganda. So just be confident, guys, na sa pagsusulat nyo. And just keep on practicing that para once that you'll become an English teacher, it would be easier for you, okay? And I hope that you learned something from this and you finish watching this video. And here are the reference that I got this, so you can read it naman din dun sa, you can click this link, I'll provide it below, para mas mabasa nyo pa and you will learn more on your own. Thank you so much, guys.